Hello everybody, how are you today? I'm here. Kind of. Yes, one of my wonderful gifts from Goriki, which I was going to show you last time, but we had ducks instead, is in view. There's another one right behind me, but you can't see it. It's here. And I need to move where I've got it. Actually. Yeah, there's other things too. And I really want them all set up so you can see them because they're wonderful. Thank you, Goriki, for those. Let's see if I can find a box to sit it on and move it along a bit. Oh, there's a box. I don't even have to find one. I just have to move it to where you can see it. And then we shall do some normal housekeeping stuff. There. There's one. Oh, it's blending in with the trees. Doesn't work so well like that, does it? Oh well, I'll leave it there for now. First of all, let's have an intro video so you guys know what you're getting in for. Into? What this is all about. Here you go, have a listen.
Hello, welcome everybody. I'm Jev, yes, Triple V. The accent, by the way, is purely Kiwi. I read old stories for children, so we keep this a family-friendly channel by having bad word blockers, banning bots, and preventing spam. So that means new followers need to wait a few minutes before they can join in the chat. Since these stories are so old, they're now on the public means they are free to read for anyone and by anyone, the way many Christmas songs are. The digital versions I read are from Project Gutenberg, and you'll find the link for that below. The physical ones are just old books my family has lying around. Sometimes I'll even show them to you. These, by the way, are live reads. Think of them as bedtime stories rather than actual audiobooks. You get the benefits of my mistakes, distractions, explanations, and terrible attempts at accents, along with plenty of chat and interruptions as we find out about things in the story. If you need to do work or chores, then that's fine. Just come and lurk. Please adjust your volume to suit. There are captions available if you have to be quiet or you have hearing challenges, but be warned, sometimes the captions aren't always that accurate. I am a member of the Codex, an awesome group of reading streamers on Twitch. People from many walks of life who share their love of reading, and you'll find links to the Codex reading team and our Discord server below. A special feature of the Codex Discord is the security channel for those of you who stream or moderate. You'll find lots of practical, useful information to help keep your stream and your community safe. So, hang around and come discover adventure with me. You never know what we'll find.
And now I can unmute again. Just trying to put my phone where it's meant to be. I've got my phone, my tablet, my ebook charging. Ebook. Antique, ancient iPad mini. And at the same time I was trying to deal with, can I find an etching that I like better? I like this picture, but it's a little bit busy. There's another one that I found, which is a beautiful woodcut. But trying to find a big enough version of it so it sits well in the background. I don't know if the intro video actually did skip or not, because I wasn't actually listening. Sorry about that, folks. And no, I didn't put in any commands so you guys can see information like Gutenberg, Project Gutenberg. This is where I get my digital versions of public domain books for reading, and Codex. So the Codex is a lovely team of people who have reading public domain books in common. We all do other stuff as well. I probably do less of the other stuff than a lot of others do, although there's a bit more now these days. I tend to game a bit more than I used to. But the one thing we have in common is reading public domain books, which was kind of covered in that intro. But there's your link for it, and also for the Discord server. So the first link will take you to our team page on Twitch, so you can see who's currently live. No guarantee that they will be reading. Not everybody reads all the time. Okay, keep that in mind. But the second one is the one which invites you to the Discord server, and Specifically, please take time to read the security channel there, and also go and check out the 3 ModLearn videos at some stage. You'll need to use the commands for ModLearn 2 and ModLearn 3 to get the links for those 2 videos, I think, unless Goriki has put links for them in the pinned post for the first YouTube video. But it's all about things that you can do to keep your Twitch space safe for you as a streamer, but also for your viewers. And you need your viewers, otherwise there's no point streaming. I stream because I love reading books and I like spending time hanging out with you folk. Actually, I love doing that too. It's not just liking it. And it's my one opportunity to ramble relatively uninterrupted, I suppose, in some ways. I don't tend to talk a lot outside of here. I know that's very hard to believe. Goriki, stop laughing. I do, honestly, I don't spend lots of time talking in day-to-day real life. So it's one of those places I just ramble lots, and we also read stories. I did actually once upon a time have somebody say, when they were watching one, after they'd watched one of my YouTube videos, stop talking and just read the book. And so I very politely said, it is not in the style of an audiobook. If you would like audiobooks, there are lots of places where you can listen to them for free, such as LibriVox. There will be no extra chatting on those locations, but what you have just watched is a recording of me reading a book live and chatting with those who were there in the channel at the time. If you want more of that, come and see us. If you don't, then go and find somewhere else to listen to your books. Try not to be rude about it. And chat over here, when I mentioned to them the very first time after it happened, were very defensive of the way I ramble. Yes, I know I ramble too much, but sometimes there's lots of interesting information that we come across along the way, and it's wonderful to discover things to do with stories and have fun. Why are we here if we're not to have fun? I don't know. Oh, by the way, if you are someone who does look at things on YouTube, I have started to get some of the older recordings back online again, ones that I had transferred over there but hadn't put them online. I think I've got them all set up into playlists. There's 2 books I've done that with, one that I've just finished and one that was just a bit before that. So yeah, there's that. So today we are going to be reading the Blue Fairy book, which is I've written edited by Andrew Lang. It's also referred to as being written by Andrew Lang. I'm not quite sure which way to put it. I think I'm going to change that to by, and then I don't have to worry about which one it actually is. I'm just going to find the, hang on. It's under, I need to find book info. I'm just going to change the wording on that. Take out edited. And let's just ignore the fact that it said edited, and we're just going to leave it as by Andrew Lang. So what happened was he and his wife used to go around gathering up fairy stories, and then he was the principal rewriter, rephraser of those fairy stories, and his wife was the principal book compiler editor. I had editor for this because he isn't the original author of any of these stories, but he has reworded them in language that was at the time a lot more modern. It's not anymore. But before we go further, but wait, there's more. We are going to now have a quick word from our not sponsor. Who is it? I don't know. But these are tips for how you can make the most of your time here. Okay? So sit back, relax, and learn something useful, hopefully. Hi, Shu. We're going to have a video now.
Hello, my name is Raccoon Z. In Z. That's right, 3 C's and 3 O's. Ha. So, welcome to the stream. We have many tips for you to help enjoy the stream. Number 1, have a drink. I like water. As soon as my human helps me out here. So, another part of that is when I hydrate, when I take a drink, you do too. You can indicate that you've done so by giving a thumbs up or use the water bottle emoji down in chat. Number 3. Sure, why not? Food or snacks? I don't have any right now, but you eat whatever you'd like to eat. Maybe it's a whole meal, maybe it's a snack. I don't know. You do you. Number 4. Get comfy. You can wrap up in something. Thanks, human. That's more like it. Grab a pillow. Maybe you've got a fidget toy you can play with. But do anything you like to be comfy. You could even have, I don't know, maybe your favorite human will give you scritches. Hey, human. That's right. Give me scritches. Yeah, that's right there. Yeah. No, don't touch the floof! Next, we have number 5, something to write with or write on. Hey, I can't reach the pad. There you go. And I need something to write on. I just said something to write. Oh wait, that's something to write on. I need something to write with. Okay. Okay, so I don't have opposable thumbs, but you do. Write memos down. You might need to remember something. Maybe not right now, but maybe after the stream. Number 6. Get involved. Join in chat. Chat in chat. Use commands. Play bingo because, that lady says some pretty crazy things from time to time. Make clips. You can even have them featured. Maybe we can see your clips someday. Spin the pages, which are like right down there somewhere. They look like a book or something. The thing down there with a number under chat. And just do whatever you can to enjoy chat. Thanks for watching.
And welcome back. Here I am. Look at you with all of those wonderful positive affirmations there, Goriki. Oh, they're lovely. Good to have you here too, Shu. I love it. So for anyone who's new here, on my starting screen, which has sort of like a ripply, purpley blue background and the book title and things like that on it, a countdown timer usually, over on this side of the screen there's usually some artwork. And it's a lovely drawing that Shu has done of me and my setup. Aspects of it. Things that I commonly have or used to commonly have in the background. And she drew it for me specially, and it just means so much. It's lovely to have it there. So thank you very much, Shu. Enjoy your lurk. I'm not trying to call you out, but I am trying to, actually, yeah, I am. I'm calling you out and saying you're a wonderful artist. And that's why she actually has the artist badge in my channel, because she has provided art for my channel. Technically, I would be able to have an artist badge too, because I did all of my own, almost all my own emotes. There's one where I've used an image that someone found for me. Very appreciated, that one is the snacks one. Excuse me, itchy eyes. And then I just added a few extra things to it, mainly the glow, outer glow on it, just to tie it in with the rest of the way I do my images. So there you go. What are we up to? I really would like to have that other image here for the background. Let's see if I'm just going to take a little bit more of a try here to see if I can actually find one of it that I can use. Because what we're doing is we are going to be reading the Blue Fairy book by Andrew Lang. So he, like I was saying before, he went round and he collected up stories, and oh, those are gorgeous. I found some pictures of woodcuts, engravings that this particular artist did. And there's one that I was looking for in particular, which, because it's dark enough, would actually work well as a background. But it's Victorian England, countryside in Victorian England. Open image in new tab. Let's see. Yes, that's a nice big one. That's what I wanted. All the other ones I found were little. So let's have this here, and let's see if I can change my image. I'm going to, no, I'm not going to bookmark that because that'll take computer resources. No word yet about my short-term well, it's not temporary, short-term replacement, only one step above this one computer. It should be hopefully this week that I can access that. I will be paying for them getting it ready for me because they will have finished doing their work for the person that it was for. What am I looking for? Background, that's what I'm looking for. Find that there, it's not on my toolbar. And see if this one works instead. Resize it. It's just as busy as the other one. That's not going to work, is it? I usually do better with pictures than this. Why am I having such a hard time? I just wanted a nice background. Filters, let's go filters. Saturation can go to 0. Is this important? Just so it's not distracting. And I want it darker. Let's go like this. That's darker. That works better. This is almost getting ready for Halloween. Maybe we've got something going here. Contrast. No, let's turn down the contrast too, make it more grey. There you go, nice and gloomy for you. And you can kind of see 2 of my wonderful gifts from Goriki that I got the other day. And here's my egg timer. I would like to have a way to set this up somewhere where it's in view and then mechanically it gets turned over when someone does the rocket timer redeem. I think I can actually hear the sand going through it. I heard it when it first turned over. That must have looked really weird. So, yeah. I can shut that. Close. Egg timer. I've got a light box and I've got a felt memo board, which I have to work out what words I'm going to... Actually, that would be really cool. We could do our keywords on it, on the light box in the background somewhere. I've got to set it up so my shelves behind me that are underneath the green screen, not behind it, but underneath it, are actually higher ones. So I think that means dragging the ones that have the TV on further forward. I've got it set back a bit. And for anyone who was here when I was doing the ones with the TV behind me and the pixel fireplace animation studio redesign, definitely in need. The pixel fireplace animation, which you guys were putting words into the chat to change the colors of, I was running that on a TV. There's a big I inherited my mother-in-law's old 42-inch flat screen TV. It's not flash, but it does the job. And so I just had another computer. I borrowed a computer off somebody else and plugged it into that, and we ran it through there. But that was sitting on a couple of little cubicle bookshelves that were sitting on each other to get them high enough but not too high so that it could actually sit in the frame. And I'll probably use it again when we come to doing my Halloween streams on this screen when I'm chatting, and then when I'm actually playing a game. It's usually cropped into this sort of thing anyway, maybe a little bit bigger so I can wave my hands around. So it won't be in view then. Right, that's it. I don't think there's any more roundup I need to do. We are going to have this new book. I don't know if it's got lots of illustrations in it or not because I haven't actually scrolled through it on Project Gutenberg. I normally have it open on my other screen just in case I need to give you guys information. I'm just going to see if I can find it and see if it shows. Why is that in a weird color? I should have just gone to Gutenberg. You can look it up, gutenberg.org. and then look up the Blue Fairy book. It was showing it to me in bright turquoise, like brighter than that, more sort of greeny blue. The Blue Fairy book. The actual link to it is one that you'll probably find if you use a Google search for it. And the first result is Grimm's Fairy Tales. No, we are not rivaling our commutation. We are leaving him to do all of the brain-slapping stuff that happens with that story, that book. Now, these books, there's a series of books. They're referred to as the Rainbow Fairy books because there's a bunch of them, and each one is called by a colour name. So there's the Blue Fairy book. That's the first one, first published in 1889, I think it is, which is why I've got that up there. There's the yellow one, there's the green one, there's the red one, and there's poetry books as well. So, yeah, there you go. There's all sorts. That one is the right colour. Oh, yuck, that's disgusting. Yes, I am allowed to say that because I'm not talking about food. Why has it got a blue background? Let's see if I can put it in easy read mode. Yay! My browser for some pages will let me use what do they call it? Reader mode. And it's built into the browser. And it means if you click that, it takes away a lot of the extra junk around the side of things. I'm not recommending you do that when you're watching someone on Twitch that you're not subscribed to, but you do want to support. If they run ads, if you cannot afford to subscribe to them, watch the ads because then they will get a few pennies rather than nothing. And also your viewership will still count during that ad time. If you use an ad blocker or anything else so that you don't get served ads while you are watching their channel, then while the ads are running, you don't count as a viewer, and also they won't get any contribution from Twitch, Amazon, and their advertising. So much as ads are inconvenient, they do give us a few pennies for putting towards things, which is greatly appreciated, by the way. So if you can't afford subs, that's a great way to support streamers. Also, another way that you can support, yes, we are going to read in a minute, another way you can support streamers is if something fun or exciting or shocking or noteworthy in any way whatsoever happens, you thought it was funny, clip it and then post it to post it to YouTube Shorts, TikTok and Instagram Reels, and then copy the link from each of those locations and go to the Twitch social sharing page. What's it called again? I had it before. Twitch inventory. This is how I usually find it. So if you go to the Twitch/drops/social -badge, or actually if you just type in Twitch inventory and follow that link to Twitch, it's one of the tabs there. I'm not quite sure why it goes there. There's a tab there called social media badge, and there's a place where you can put in the link on each of those social media sites that you have posted it to, the link for that particular iteration of it, and then the channel name for the user there, the user that you are sharing. And if they get enough views, you get a badge. I think they might too, I'm not sure. The first one is a lot easier to get than the rest of them. The last one, Legend, is lots. It's like super viral views. So there you go, that's how you can support them. Clips anyway are a really good idea because clips, Twitch is actually making it so that smaller streamers' clips get shown if people have a tendency to watch smaller streamers when they come to the Twitch front page or something like that on mobile devices. There's a section there with clips, and it will show clips of people that have been clipped by their viewers, and it's a great way to actually help your favourite streamers to get seen more. So if you want to and you can't afford to actually subscribe, do those things. Clip something and then share it on Twitch and other social media, that sort of thing. It's really worthwhile because it does actually help with all the different algorithms all over the place actually just deciding, oh, that person's worth sharing. We will push them to other people. And more eyes on actually does help in the long run. So the Blue Fairy book, and we are going to start with the very first story in it, which is called The Bronze Ring, except by me putting it in that mode, it's not going to have any pictures. I don't know if it has pictures. Contents. No, it doesn't tell me that it's got illustrations in this edition. So I shall give you this... Technically, this edition of the book, because often Project Gutenberg will have a range of them, technically this edition has images. In reality, the only image it's got is that weird colour block automatically generated cover that's associated with this book, unless if you use the one that's at that link. If you use one of the other ones, I'm guessing there are other ones, because some books there are more than one edition of, it may actually have real pictures. Come on, unlock. Yay, the Blue Fairy book. Here we go. No, I don't want you to actually access it from my computer. By Various, edited by Andrew Lang, according to this version. But I'm not reading it from there. Brain went two different directions at once. I'm not reading it from there. That one doesn't have a table of contents. I'm reading it from here. I was telling myself I wasn't reading it from this one. Let's ignore that. Let's get on with reading. The Bronze Ring. Here you go, first story. Oh, and we do have a key word. It is shame. If our author chooses to shame someone in the book in some way because of their height, their looks, whatever, please use one of these two commands. You don't even need to type shame after it because we've only got one word today. Otherwise, I was going to say, type it in there, but you don't need to. And we will all have a drink of water. And speaking of which, I'm going to have some extra water anyway. Yes, it says time, but that's because I haven't taken the words off yet. I've been talking too much and not drinking enough. And thank you, Neff, for redeeming donkey, because what that has given you is a Wikipedia entry about donkeys, I think. So here we go. Donkeys are key on my channel. And if you are using the Jev Bingo, that central square is the word is for donkey. If you see a donkey on screen anywhere, or if I mention donkeys, or if they come up in the book, then you get to tick off that square. That is not a free square. That is the word donkey, or the image. Donkey. Here we go. The Bronze Ring. Once upon a time in a certain country, there lived a king whose palace was surrounded by a spacious garden. But though the gardeners were many, knocking my microphone. Though the gardeners were many and the soil was good, this garden yielded neither flowers nor fruits, not even grass or shady trees. Oh, I did choose well. The king was in despair about it when a wise old man said to him, "Your gardeners do not understand their business, but what can you expect of men whose fathers were cobblers and carpenters? How should they have learned to cultivate your garden?" "You're quite right," cried the king. "Therefore," continued the old man, "you should send for a gardener whose father and grandfather have been gardeners before him, and very soon your garden will be full of green grass and gay flowers, and you will enjoy its delicious fruit." So the king sent messengers to every town, village, and hamlet in his dominions to look for a gardener, whose forefathers had been gardeners also, and after 40 days one was found. Not sure if 40 days is particularly relevant. We shall read on and find out. "Come with us and be gardener to the king," they said to him. "How can I go to the king?" said the gardener. "A poor wretch like me." "That's of no consequence," they answered. "Here are new clothes for you and your family." "But I owe money to several people." "We will pay your debts." Oh, that's handy, isn't it? So the gardener allowed himself to be persuaded and went away with the messengers, taking his wife and son with him. And the king, delighted to have found a real gardener, I'm not quite sure how he tested that theory. It's because I took out the word edit. I was wondering why the book is over there, but there's a big gap because I had it so the two were right next to each other. Sorry, ADHD brain. The king was delighted to have found a real gardener and trusted him with the care of his garden. The man found no difficulty in making the royal garden produce flowers and fruit. See, we've got flowers. Don't know about fruit. Flowers and fruit, and at the end of a year the park was not the same place, and the king showered gifts upon his new servant. Thought it was a garden, now it's a park. That's a bit bigger. The gardener, as you have heard already, had a son who was a very handsome young man with most agreeable manners, and every day he carried the best fruit of the garden to the king, and all the prettiest flowers to his daughter. Oh. Now this princess was wonderfully pretty and was just 16 years old, and the king was beginning to think it was time she should be married. "My dear child," said he, "you are of an age to take to take a husband. Therefore I am thinking of marrying you to the son of my prime minister." The man who sucks up to you all the time. Yeah, I think not. The man who would like to have your job but has to do your job for you. Where are you going? That's not where I go. Come on. Cat's just walked in. I can't pick him up when he's behind me because there's not enough room to lean over. There you go. Look. You say hello to the lovely people. Okay. There you go. Are you going to sit down? Would you like treats? You have to sit down if you want treats. Are you sitting down? Yes, you're sitting down. Good boy. I've got fluff on my nose. He's just had treats. Sit! And his eyes are looking a bit creepy at the moment. It's just reflections. Sorry. No, that's the same. I try to get 3 different colours. There's only 3 different sorts in here. And I try to get one of each because in theory they're different flavours. Chicken, something, and something else. There you go. Sit. Get your bottom down. Thank you. Good boy. Bottom down. Good boy. You sitting? Are you sitting properly? Are you sure? Sit, 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 sit. Sit, sit. I'm trying to get him to lean back a bit so he's sitting. Good boy. There you go. Yes, yes, you did miss it. There you go. You finished? That's lovely. This is a lovely boy. Yeah. Okay. You sit down. You stay there. You can lie down and go to sleep now. Yeah. Are you going to lie down? That looks really weird, that green screening on his camera. He's got a second set of treats for today. Right. We'll carry on. Where do we get to? "My dear child," said he, "you are of an age to take a husband, therefore I am thinking of marrying you to the son of my prime minister. That'll get me loyalty, won't it?" "Father," replied the princess, "I will never marry the son of the minister." "Why not?" asked the king. "Because I love the gardener's son," answered the princess. "Why? Because he gives her flowers. He sees her. The minister's son, it's just the king's daughter. I bet he doesn't get her flowers." I'm going to have a drink. Yes, I am showing off a brand. I couldn't be bothered covering it today. What have you got to drink and eat today? This is what I was getting when you guys were watching the tips video. V is a New Zealand energy drink. It was invented in New Zealand and then it's got big in Australia as well. I don't think it's available anywhere else. I don't know. We'll carry on. I haven't had enough caffeine today, obviously. Because I love the gardener's son, answered the princess. On hearing this, the king was at first very angry. And then he wept and sighed and declared that such a husband was not worthy of his daughter. But the young princess was not to be turned from her resolution to marry the gardener's son. Then the king consulted his ministers, one of which is the prime minister whose son it is. So you know what his advice is going to be. This is what you must do, they said. To get rid of the gardener, you must send both suitors to a very distant country, and the one who returns first shall marry your daughter. The king followed this advice, and the minister's son was presented with a splendid horse and a purse full of gold pieces, while the gardener's son only had an old lame horse and a purse full of copper money, and everyone thought he would never come back from his journey. The day before they started, the princess met her lover and said to him, Be brave, and remember always that I love you. Take this purse full of jewels, and make the best use you can of them for love of me, and come back quickly and demand my hand. The two suitors left the town. Obviously, he didn't let anyone know that he now had this bag of jewels as an extra. The two suitors left the town together, but the minister's son went off at a gallop on his good horse and very soon was lost to sight behind the most distant hills. He travelled on for some days and presently reached a fountain, beside which an old woman sat, all in rags, upon a stone. "Good day to you, young traveller," said she, but the minister's son made no reply. "Have pity on me, traveller," she said again. "I am dying of hunger. As you see, in 3 days have I been here, and no one has given me anything." "Let me alone, old witch," cried the young man. "I can do nothing for you." And so saying, he went on his way. That same evening, the gardener's son rode up to the fountain upon his lame grey horse. "Good day to you, young traveller," said the beggar woman. "Good day, good woman," answered he. "Young traveller, have pity on me." "Take my purse, good woman," said he, "and mount behind me, for your legs can't be very strong." The old woman didn't wait to be asked twice, but mounted behind him, and in this style they reached the chief city of a powerful kingdom. The minister's son was lodged in a grand inn. The gardener's son and the old woman dismounted at the inn for beggars. Think of all that money they're saving. The next day the gardener's son heard a great noise in the street, and the king's heralds passed, blowing all kinds of instruments and crying, "The king, our master, is old and infirm. He will give a great reward to whoever will cure him and give him back the strength of his youth." Then the old beggar woman said to her benefactor, "This is what you must obtain. This is what you must do." Words are sometimes very hard. "This is what you must do to obtain the reward which the king promises. Go out of the town by the south gate, and there you will find 3 little dogs of different colours. The first will be white, the second black, the third red. You must kill them and then burn them separately." I hope these are demons in disguise or something, or people who have been enchanted, and burning them releases them from the enchantment. "And then gather up the ashes, put the ashes of each dog into a bag of its own colour, then go before the door of the palace and cry out, 'A celebrated physician has come from Janina in Albania. He alone can cure the king and give him back the strength of his youth.' The king's physicians will say, 'This is an impostor and not a learned man,' and they will make all sorts of difficulties, but you will overcome them all at last, and will present yourself before the sick king. You must then demand as much wood as 3 mules can carry, and a great cauldron, because witches need cauldrons, and you're going to be tried for a witch. But no, we're not going to tell you that bit. You just need the great cauldron, and must shut yourself in a room with the Sultan, and when the cauldron boils, you must throw him into it, and there leave him until his flesh is completely separated from his bones, and then you've got king soup. Yeah, not king cake, we've got king soup. Where did we get to? And must shut yourself up in a room with the Sultan, and when the cauldron boils, you must throw him into it, and there leave him until his flesh is completely separated from his bones. Then arrange the bones in their proper places, and throw over them the ashes out of the 3 bags. The king will come back to life and will be just as he was when he was 20 years old. For this reward you must demand the bronze ring which has the power to grant you everything you desire. No, it's not a brass lantern or a lamp, it's a bronze ring. Go, my son, and do not forget any of my instructions. The young man followed the old beggar woman's directions. On going out of the town, he found the white, red, and black dogs and killed and burnt them, and gathered the ashes in 3 bags. Then he ran to the palace and cried, "A celebrated physician has just come from Janina, I don't know, in Albania. He alone can cure the king and give him back the strength of his youth." The king's physicians at first laughed at the unknown wayfarer, but the Sultan ordered that the stranger should be admitted. They brought the cauldron and the loads of wood, and very soon the king was boiling away. I don't know what he thought of being boiled alive. This is almost as bad as the Grimm tales day before yesterday over on Alco Mutations channel. They're pretty gruesome. Toward midday, the gardener's son arranged the bones in their places, and he had hardly scattered the ashes over them before the old king revived, to find himself once more young and hearty. "How can I reward you, my benefactor?" he cried. "Will you take half my treasures?" "No," said the gardener's son. "My daughter's hand?" "If you say yes to this, mate, you're in big trouble with that girl back home." "No, take half my kingdom." "No, give me only the bronze ring, which can instantly grant me anything I wish for." "Alas," he shouldn't have referenced what it was. He should have just said it was the brass ring on the king's finger. "Alas, I set great store by that marvellous ring. Nevertheless, you shall have it." And he gave it to him. The gardener's son went back to say goodbye to the old beggar woman. Then he said to the bronze ring, "Prepare a splendid ship in which I may continue my journey. Let the hull be of fine gold, the masts of silver, the sails of brocade. Let the crew consist of 12 young men of noble appearance, dressed like kings. St. Nicholas will be at the helm, and as to the cargo, let it be diamonds, rubies, emeralds, and carbuncles. No carbuncles, not those painful bumps on your feet, but a gem." And they were huge, which is why the lumps on people's feet that are painful were called carbuncles, because they were big. I don't know what a carbuncle actually is. And immediately a ship appeared upon the sea, which resembled in every particular the description given by the gardener's son, and stepping on board he continued his journey. Presently he arrived at a great town and established it. You didn't hear that. No, you didn't. Presently he arrived at a great town and established himself in a wonderful palace. After several days he met his rival, the minister's son, who'd spent all his money and was reduced to the disagreeable employment of a carrier of dust and rubbish. "They haven't got back yet." Why did the other guy spend so much money? All he had to do was get to one place and go back again. Why didn't he just go there and go back? He should have been back by now. After several days he met his rival, the minister's son, who had spent all his money and was reduced to the disagreeable employment of a carrier of dust and rubbish. The gardener's son said to him, "What is your country? What is your name? What is your family? And from what country do you come?" "I am the son of the prime minister of a great nation, and yet see what a degrading occupation I am reduced to." He feels it's beneath him, rather than actually being pleased that he has something that is paying for his food and lodging. Listen to me. Though I don't know anything more about you, I am willing to help you. I will give you a ship to take you back to your own country upon one condition. Whatever it may be, I accept it willingly. Follow me to my palace. The minister's son followed the rich stranger, whom he had not recognised. When they reached the palace, the gardener's son made a sign to his slaves, who completely undressed the newcomer. I thought this was a kid's book. Make this ring red hot, commanded the master, and mark the man with it upon his back. The slaves obeyed him. Now, young man, said the rich stranger, I am going to give you a vessel which will take you back to your own country. And going out, he took the bronze ring and said, Bronze ring, obey thy master. Prepare me a ship of which the half-rotten timbers shall be painted black. Let the sails be in rags, and the sailors infirm and sickly. One shall have lost a leg, another an arm, the third shall be a hunchback, another lame or club-footed or blind, and most of them shall be ugly and covered with scars. Go, and let my orders be executed. The minister's son embarked in this old vessel, and thanks to favourable winds at length reached his own country. In spite of the pitiable condition in which he returned, they received him joyfully. I am the first to come back, said he to the king. Now fulfil your promise and give me the princess in marriage. So that at once they began to prepare for the wedding festivities. As to the poor princess, she was sorrowful and angry enough about it. It's meant to be the gardener. Where's my gardener? Why do I have to marry this horrible person? The next morning at daybreak, a wonderful ship with every sail set came to anchor before the town. The king happened at that moment to be at the palace window. What strange ship is this? He cried, that has a golden hull, silver masts, and silken sails, and who are the young men like princes who man it? And do I not see Saint Nicholas at the helm? Go at once and invite the captain of the ship to come to the palace. His servants obeyed him, and very soon in came an enchantingly handsome young prince, dressed in rich silk, ornamented with pearls and diamonds. Young man, said the king, you are welcome, whoever you may be. Do me the favour to be my guest as long as you remain in my capital. Many thanks, sire, replied the captain. I accept your offer. My daughter is about to be married, said the king. Will you give her away? I shall be charmed, sire. Soon after came the princess and her betrothed. Why, how is this? Cried the young captain. Would you marry this charming princess to such a man as that? But he is my prime minister's son. What does that matter? I cannot give your daughter away. The man he is betrothed to is one of my servants. Your servant? Without doubt, I met him in a distant town, reduced to carrying away dust and rubbish from the houses. I had pity on him and engaged him as one of my servants. It's impossible, cried the king. Do you wish me to prove what I say? This young man returned in a vessel which I fitted out for him, an unseaworthy ship, with a black battered hull, and the sailors were infirm and crippled. It is quite true, said the king. It is false, cried the minister's son. I do not know this man. Sire, said the young captain, order your daughter's betrothed to be stripped and see if the mark of my ring is not branded upon his back. The king was about to give this order when the minister's son, to save himself from such an indignity, admitted that the story was true. And now, sire, said the young captain, do you not recognize me? I recognize you, cried the princess. You are the gardener's son whom I have always loved, and it is you I wish to marry. Young man, you shall be my son-in-law, cried the king. The marriage festivities are already begun. Lo! So you shall marry my daughter this very day. And so that very day the gardener's son married the beautiful princess. It doesn't say the end, and there's 9 pages to go. I think there's some double crossing is going to happen here. Several months passed. The young couple were as happy as the day was long, and the king was more and more pleased with himself for having secured such a son-in-law. But presently the captain of the golden ship found it necessary to take a long voyage, and after embracing his wife tenderly, he embarked. Now, in the outskirts of the capital there lived an old man who had spent his life in studying black arts. We're meant to have ominous music and flashing lights and lightning and stuff going on. Didn't think this was going to be a Halloween stream, but there you go. Alchemy, astrology, magic, and enchantment. This man found out that the gardener's son had only succeeded in marrying the princess by the help of the genie who obeyed the bronze ring. But wasn't he a nicer person anyway? I will have that ring, said he to himself. So he went down to the seashore and caught some little red fishes. Really, they were quite wonderfully pretty. Then he came back, and passing before the princess's window, he began to cry out, "Who wants some pretty little red fishes?" The princess heard him and sent out one of her slaves, who said to the old peddler, "What will you take for your fish?" "A bronze ring." "A bronze ring, old simpleton? And where shall I find one?" "Under the cushion in the princess's room." "Why is the guy not wearing it?" The slave went back to her mistress. "The old madman will take neither gold nor silver," said she. "What does he want then?" "A bronze ring that's hidden under a cushion." "Find the ring and give it to him," said the princess, and at last the slave found the bronze ring, which the captain of the golden ship had accidentally left behind, and carried it to the man. Left behind, comma, although it doesn't have it. She found it, and she carried it to the man, who made off with it instantly. Hardly had he reached his own house when, taking the ring, he said, "Bronze ring, obey thy master. I desire that the golden ship shall turn to black wood and the crew to hideous negroes, that St. Nicholas shall leave the helm, and that the only cargo shall be black cats." Apparently black is a shameful colour. So let's drink to shame. And the genie of the bronze ring obeyed him. There's nothing wrong with the colour black, or lack of colour. Finding himself upon the sea in this miserable condition, the young captain understood that someone must have stolen the bronze ring from him, and he lamented his misfortune loudly, but that did him no good. "Alas," he said to himself, "whoever has taken my ring has probably taken my dear wife also. What good will it do me to go back to my own country?" And he sailed about from island to island and from shore to shore, believing that wherever he went, everybody was laughing at him, and very soon his poverty was so great that he and his crew and the poor black cats had nothing to eat but herbs and roots. After wandering about for a long time, he reached an island inhabited by mice. The captain landed upon the shore and began to explore the country. There were mice everywhere, and nothing but mice. Some of the black cats had followed him, and not having been fed for several days, they were fearfully hungry and made terrible havoc among the mice. Then the queen of the mice held a council. "These cats will eat every one of us," she said, "if the captain of the ship does not shut the ferocious animals up. Let us send a deputation to him of the bravest among us." Several mice offered themselves for this mission and set out to find the young captain. "Captain," said they, "go away quickly from our island, or we shall perish, every mouse of us." "Willingly," replied the young captain, "upon one condition. That is, that you shall first bring me back a bronze ring which some clever magician has stolen from me. If you do not do this, I will land all my cats upon your island, and you shall be exterminated." The mice withdrew in great dismay. "What is to be done?" said the queen. "How can we find this bronze ring?" She held a new council, calling in mice from every quarter of the globe, but nobody knew where the bronze ring was. Suddenly, 3 mice arrived from a very distant country. One was blind. No, not 3 blind mice. One was blind, the second lame, and the third had her ears cropped. Poor thing. Ho, 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 said the newcomers. We come from a far distant country. We come from a far distant country, oh. I feel like there's meant to be a song in there somewhere. Do you know where the bronze ring is which the genie obey? Ho, 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 we know. An old sorcerer has taken possession of it, and now he keeps it in his pocket by day and in his mouth by night. Go and take it from him and come back as soon as possible. So the three mice made themselves a boat and set sail for the magician's country. When they reached the capital, they landed and ran to the palace, leaving only the blind mouse on the shore to take care of the boat. Then they waited till it was night. The wicked old man lay down in bed and put the bronze ring into his mouth, and very soon he was asleep. Maybe it's too big to wear as a ring on your finger. I just assumed when it said bronze ring that it was a ring that you wore on your finger, but if he keeps it in his pocket or in his mouth, maybe not. That's weird. Very soon he was asleep. Now what shall we do, said the two little animals to each other. The mouse with the cropped ears found a lamp full of oil and a bottle full of pepper, so she dipped her tail first in the oil and then in the pepper and held it to the sorcerer's nose. Atisha! Atisha! Sneezed the old man, but he did not wake, and the shock made the bronze ring jump out of his mouth. Quick as thought, the lame mouse snatched up the precious talisman and carried it off to the boat. Imagine the despair of the magician when he awoke and the bronze ring was nowhere to be found, least of all in his mouth. But by that time our three mice had set sail with their prize. A favouring breeze was carrying them toward the island where the queen of the mice was awaiting them. Naturally, they began to talk about the bronze ring. Which of us deserves the most credit? They cried all at once. I do, said the blind mouse, for without my watchfulness our boat would have drifted away to the open sea. Excuse me, itchy nose. All of them deserve it because they all played a part. No, indeed, cried the mouse with the cropped ears. The credit is mine. Did I not cause the ring to jump out of the man's mouth? No, it's mine, cried the lame one, for I ran off with the ring, even though I was lame. Doesn't say that. And from high words they soon came to blows, and alas, when the quarrel was fiercest, the bronze ring fell into the sea. How are we to face our queen, said the three mice, when by our folly we have lost the talisman and condemned our people to be utterly exterminated? We cannot go back to our country. Let us land on this desert island, and there end our miserable lives. No sooner said than done. The boat reached the island, and the mice landed. The blind mouse was speedily deserted by her two sisters, who went off to hunt flies. Mice hunting flies? Oh, welcome mice if that's what they do. Oh my goodness. But as she wandered sadly along the shore, she found a dead fish and was eating it when she felt something very hard. At her cries, the other two mice ran up. It's the bronze ring! It's the talisman! They cried joyfully, and getting into their boat again, after cleaning themselves, I would hope. My mind is still saying that there's oil and pepper on her tail, on the other one's tail. And getting into their boat again, they soon reached the Mouse Island. It was time they did, for the captain was just going to land his cargo of cats, when a deputation of mice brought him the precious bronze ring. Bronze ring, commanded the young man, obey thy master. Let my ship appear as it was before. Immediately the genie of the ring set to work, and the old black vessel became once more the wonderful golden ship with sails of brocade. The handsome sailors ran to the silver masts and the silken ropes, and very soon they set sail for the capital. Did they thank the mice? I hope so. Ah, how merrily the sailors sang as they flew over the glassy sea. At last the port was reached. The captain landed and ran to the palace, where he found the wicked old man asleep. The princess clasped her husband in a long embrace. The magician tried to escape, but he was seized and bound with strong cords. The next day the sorcerer, tied to the tail of a savage mule loaded with nuts, was broken into as many pieces as there were nuts upon the mule's back. And that story is from Traditions Populaires La Haie Migneur, Canoë et Nicolaïdis, Paris, Maisonneuve, 1889. It's a traditional story that was published in Paris at the New House in 1889. I'm guessing. My pronunciation is really screwy anyway, so it doesn't matter. So if you want to find out where these stories are from, it's at the end of each of the chapters. There you go. It's 2:00. We're halfway through our stream time, and the next story is 17 pages. Let's have a look and see what the last one was. 12 to 38. 26. I guess. No, I don't think it actually works that way. So that one was 25. Okay, maybe it does work that way. Then the next one is 17, unless there's a picture in it. Let's break it up. Because often the number of pages actually goes to where there's a break in the text. It's not necessarily a chapter. Sometimes it's where there's an illustration. But I couldn't see any in this one, so I don't know. I do want to see if this book has, the original book did have illustrations, and if I can find copies of them somewhere. I don't know if it does or not. We are reading the next story, the second story. It doesn't have chapter numbers, just the names of the stories. Prince Hyacinth and the Dear Little Princess. Let's see how weird this one's going to be. Once upon a time there lived a king who was deeply in love with a princess, but she could not marry anyone because she was under an enchantment. But of course. So the king set out to seek a fairy and asked what he could do to win the princess's love. The fairy said to him, "You know that the princess has a great cat which she is very fond of. Whoever is clever enough to tread on the cat's tail is the man she is destined to marry." Is it a Manx cat? Whoever is clever enough to stand on the cat's tail. Why would you need to be clever to stand on a cat's tail? That implies that there's something odd going on. I don't know what, but there is. The king said to himself that this would not be very difficult. We always start off with an idiot, don't we? And he left the fairy determined to grind the cat's tail to powder rather than not to tread on it at all. In other words, just really stomp it into the ground. You may imagine that it was not long before he went to see the princess, and Puss, as usual, marched in before him, arching his back. The king took a long step and quite thought he had the tail under his foot, but the cat turned around so sharply that he only trod on the air. And so it went on for 8 days, till the king began to think that this fatal tail must be full of quicksilver. It was never still for a moment. So it's not a Manx cat. Manx cats have no tails, or a bobtail. At last, however, he was lucky enough to come upon Puss fast asleep, and with his tail conveniently spread out. So the king, without losing a moment, set his foot heavily upon it. With one terrific yell, the cat sprang up and instantly changed into a tall man, who, fixing his angry eyes upon the king, said, "You shall marry the princess because you've been able to break the enchantment. But I will have my revenge. You shall have a son who will never be happy until he finds out that his nose is too long." Will never be happy until he finds out that his nose is too long. What is that? "And if you ever tell anyone what I have just said to you, you shall vanish away instantly, and no one shall ever see you or hear of you again." I think it's because of the fact that he stomped on the tail. Because obviously the guy did get hurt by it. Though the king was horribly afraid of the enchanter, he could not help laughing at this threat. "If my son has such a long nose as that," he said to himself, "he must always see it or feel it at least, if he is not blind or without hands." But as the enchanter had vanished, he did not waste any more time in thinking, but went to seek the princess, who very soon consented to marry him. Except that she is now without her cat. I don't know. Does she miss her cat? Why are cats so important in these stories anyway? I like cats. They seem to be granted more power than you'd expect. She very soon consented to marry him, but after all, they had not been married very long when the king died, and the queen had nothing left to care for but her little son, who was called Hyacinth. Usually it's girls who are called flowers' names, not boys. Her son, who was called Hyacinth. So the king died after all that. The little prince had large blue eyes, the prettiest eyes in the world, and a sweet little mouth. But alas, his nose was so enormous that it covered half his face. The queen was inconsolable when she saw this great nose, but her ladies assured her that it was not really as large as it looked, that it was a Roman nose, and you had only to open any history to see that every hero had a large nose. The queen, who was devoted to her baby, was pleased with what they told her, and when she looked at Hyacinth again, his nose certainly did not seem to her quite so large. The prince was brought up with great care, and as soon as he could speak, they told him all sorts of dreadful stories about people who had short noses. No one was allowed to come near him whose nose did not more or less resemble his own, and the courtiers, to get into favour with the queen, took to pulling their babies' noses several times every day to make them grow longer. But do what you would, they were nothing by comparison with the prince's. When he grew sensible, he learned history, and whenever any great prince or beautiful princess was spoken of, his teachers took great care to tell him that they had long noses. Methinks the lady doth protest too much. It's a little bit obvious that they're trying to cover for something, I think. His room was hung with pictures, all of people with very large noses, and the prince grew up so convinced that a long nose was a great beauty, that he would not on any account have had his own a single inch shorter. Now, what was the enchantment? Something about his nose length? You will have a son who will never be happy until he finds out that his nose is too long. And that will make him happy? The prince grew up so convinced that a long nose was a great beauty, and that he would not on any account have had his own a single inch shorter. When his 20th birthday had passed, the queen thought it was time that he should be married, so she commanded that the portraits of several princesses should be brought for him to see, and among the others was a picture of the dear little princess. Okay, now she was the daughter of a great king, and would some day possess several kingdoms herself, but Prince Hyacinth had not a thought to spare for anything of that sort. He was so much struck with her beauty. The princess, whom he thought quite charming, had, however, a little saucy nose, which in her face was the prettiest thing possible, but it was a cause of great embarrassment to the courtiers, who had got into such a habit of laughing at little noses that they sometimes found themselves laughing at hers before they had time to think. It's embarrassing and awkward. But this did not do at all. This did not do at all before the prince, who quite failed to see the joke, and actually banished 2 of his courtiers who had dared to mention disrespectfully the dear little princess's tiny nose. The others, taking warning from this, learned to think twice before they spoke, and one even went so far as to tell the prince that, though it was quite true that no man could be worth anything unless he had a long nose, still a woman's beauty was a different thing, and he knew a learned man who understood Greek and had read in some old manuscripts that the beautiful Cleopatra herself had a tilted nose, in other words, her nose popped up at the end. The prince made him a splendid present as a reward for this good news, and at once sent ambassadors to ask the dear little princess in marriage. The king, her father, gave his consent, and Prince Hyacinth, who in his anxiety to see the princess had gone 3 leagues to meet her, instead of just waiting for her to arrive, which was apparently more normal, was just advancing to kiss her hand when, to the horror of all who stood by, the enchanter appeared as suddenly as a flash of lightning and, snatching up the dear little princess, whirled her away out of sight. He's not allowed to be happy yet, you see. The prince was left quite inconsolable and declared that nothing should induce him to go back to his kingdom until he had found her again, and refusing to allow any of his courtiers to follow him, he mounted his horse and rode sadly away, letting the animal choose his own path. So it happened that he came presently to a great plain, across which he rode all day long, without seeing a single horse, and the horse and rider were terribly hungry, when, as the night fell, the prince caught sight of a light which seemed to shine from a cavern. Sorry, it doesn't always happen, but today I'm getting snippets of songs with different parts, like been through the desert on a horse with no name, feels good to get out of the rain, or whatever it is that it says. Horse. It's just because it's got horse in it. I don't know why. My brain does this sometimes. It just throws information at me like I throw it at you guys. Word association. Here, there's a word. Have some information that uses that word obliquely. Anyway, the prince caught sight of a light which seemed to shine from a cavern. He rode up to it and saw a little old woman who appeared to be at least 100 years old. She put on her spectacles. Oh, there's somebody there. I'll just put my glasses on so I can see who it is. Oh, he has got a nose, I think. She put on her spectacles to look at Prince Hyacinth, but it was quite a long time before she could fix them securely because her nose was so very short. The prince and the fairy, for that was who she was, had no sooner looked at one another than they went into fits of laughter and cried at the same moment, "Oh, what a funny nose!" "Not so funny as your own," said Prince Hyacinth to the fairy, "but, madam, I beg you to leave the consideration of our noses such as they are, and to be good enough to give me something to eat, for I am starving, and so is my poor horse." "With all my heart," said the fairy. "Though your nose is so ridiculous, you are nevertheless the son of my best friend. I loved your father as if he had been my brother. Now he had a very handsome nose." "And pray what does mine lack?" said the prince. "Oh, it doesn't lack anything," replied the fairy. "On quite the contrary, there is only too much of it. But never mind, one may be a very worthy man, though his nose is too long. I was telling you that I was your father's friend. He often came to see me in the old times, and you must know that I was very pretty in those days. At least, he used to say so. I should like to tell you of a conversation we had the last time I ever saw him." Is this why he died? Except that we still know of him. It said that he would disappear and never be mentioned again if he mentioned how he got to marry the princess. "Indeed," said the prince, "when I have supped, it will give me the greatest pleasure to hear it. But consider, madam, I beg of you, that I have had nothing to eat today." "The poor boy is right," said the fairy. "I was forgetting. Come in then, and I will give you some supper, and while you are eating I shall tell you my story in a very few words, for I don't like endless tales myself. Too long a tongue is worse than too long a nose, and I remember when I was young that I was so much admired for not being a great chatterer. They used to tell the queen, my mother, that it was so. For though you see what I am now, I was the daughter of a great king. My father—" "Your father, I dare say, got something to eat when he was hungry," interrupted the prince. So she's chatting on and not feeding him. "Oh, certainly," answered the fairy, "and you also shall have supper directly. I only just wanted to tell you, but I really cannot listen to anything until I have had something to eat," cried the prince, who was getting quite angry, but then remembering that he had better be polite, as he much needed the fairy's help, he added, "I know that in the pleasure of listening to you I should quite forget my own hunger, but my horse, who cannot hear you, really must be fed." The fairy was very much flattered by this compliment, and said, calling to her servants, "You shall not wait another minute. You are so polite, and in spite of the enormous size of your nose, you are really very agreeable." Plague take the old lady. How she does go on about my nose, said the prince to himself. One would almost think that mine had taken all the extra length that hers lacks. If I were not so hungry, I should soon have done with this chatterpie who thinks she talks very little. How stupid people are not to see their own faults. That comes of being a princess. She has been spoiled by flatterers who have made her believe that she is quite a moderate talker. Pot, kettle, black. Meanwhile, the servants were putting the supper on the table, and the prince was much amused to hear the fairy, who asked them 1,000 questions simply for the pleasure of hearing herself speak. Especially he noticed one maid who, no matter what was being said, always contrived to praise his mistress's wisdom. Well, he thought as he ate his supper, I'm very glad I came here. This just shows me how sensible I have been in never listening to flatterers. People of that sort praise us to our faces without shame, and hide our faults, or change them into virtues. For my part, I never will be taken in by them. I know my own defects, I hope. Poor Prince Hyacinth. He really believed that what he said, and hadn't any idea that the people who had praised his nose were laughing at him, just as the fairy's maid was laughing at her, for the prince had seen her laugh slyly when she could do so without the fairy's noticing her. However, he said nothing, and presently, when his hunger began to be appeased, the fairy said, "My dear prince, might I beg you to move a little more that way, for your nose casts such a shadow that I really cannot see what I have on my plate." "Ah, thanks. Now let us speak of your father. When I went to his court he was only a little boy, but that is 40 years ago, and I have been in this desolate place ever since. Tell me what goes on nowadays. Are the ladies as fond of amusement as ever? In my time one saw them at parties, theatres, balls, and promenades every day. Dear me, what a long nose you have! I cannot get used to it." "Really, madam," said the prince, "I wish you would leave off mentioning my nose. It cannot matter to you what it is like. I am quite satisfied with it, and have no wish to have it shorter. One must take what is given one." "Now you are angry with me, my poor Hyacinth," said the fairy. Did he say his name was Hyacinth? "And I assure you that I didn't mean to vex you. On the contrary, I wished to do you a service. However, though I really cannot help your nose being a shock to me, I will try not to say anything about it. I will even try to think that you have an ordinary nose. To tell the truth, it would make 3 reasonable ones." That's quite a long nose. The prince, who was no longer hungry, grew so impatient at the fairy's continual remarks about his nose that at last he threw himself upon his horse and rode hastily away. But wherever he came in his journeyings, he thought the people were mad, for they all talked of his nose, and yet he could not bring himself to admit that it was too long. He had been so used all his life to hear it called handsome. The old fairy, who wished to make him happy, at last hit upon a plan. She shut the dear little princess up in a palace of crystal, and put his palace down where the prince would not fail to find it. His joy at seeing the princess again was extreme, and he set to work with all his might to try to break her prison, but in spite of all his efforts he failed utterly. In despair he thought at last that he would try to get near enough to speak to the dear little princess, who on her part stretched out her hand that he might kiss it, but turn which way he might he never could raise it to his lips, for his long nose always prevented it. For the first time he realized how long it really was, and exclaimed, "Well, it must be admitted that my nose is too long." In an instant the crystal prison flew into 1,000 splinters, and the old fairy, taking the dear little princess by the hand, said to the prince, "Now, say if you are not very much obliged to me. Much good it was for me to talk to you about your nose. You would never have found out how extraordinary it was if it hadn't hindered you from doing what you wanted to do. You see how self-love keeps us from knowing our own defects of mind and body. Our reason tries in vain to show them to us. We refuse to see them till we find them in the way of our interests." Prince Hyacinth, whose nose was now just like anyone else's, did not fail to profit by the lesson he had received. He married the dear little princess, and they lived happily ever after. And that is from a tale called La Prince Désir et la Princesse Mignon par Madame le Prince de Beaumont. Written by Madame le Prince of Beaumont, I guess. Excuse me. Clearing my throat. Oh yes, we've still got time. I should have looked up there, shouldn't I? Right. East of the sun and west of the moon. Now there's a story called something similar to that I was actually going to read, but I couldn't get it to download. But it wasn't this one. Anyway, we'll see. And thank you for the follow, by the way. Let's carry on. East of the sun and west of the moon. We are reading the Blue Fairy book by the stories have been put together by Andrew Lang. He retold stories that he had come across, and it was first published in 1889. It's one of a series of books that he and his wife published, and they're referred to as the Rainbow Fairy books because each book has a colour as part of the title. For no particular reason, just a way of identifying which book it is, I guess. East of the sun and west of the moon. Once upon a time, there was a poor husbandman. There you go. Did you know that that's what they are? Husbandmen. There was a poor husbandman who had many children and little to give them in either way, in the way either of food or clothing. They were all pretty, but the prettiest of all was the youngest daughter, who was so beautiful that there were no bounds to her beauty. So once, it was late on a Thursday evening in autumn, and wild weather outside, terribly dark and raining so heavily and blowing so hard that the walls of the cottage shook again, they were all sitting together by the fireside, each of them busy with something or other, when suddenly someone rapped 3 times against the window pane. The man went out to see what could be the matter, and when he got out there stood a great big white bear. I hope it's not a snow bear. When he got out, there stood a great big white bear. "Good evening to you," said the white bear. "Good evening," said the man. "Will you give me your youngest daughter?" said the white bear. "If you will, you shall be as rich as you are now poor." I bet it's a prince in under enchantment or in disguise. Truly, the man would have had no objection to being rich, but he thought to himself, "I must first ask my daughter about this." That's sensible. So he went in and told them there was a great white bear outside who had faithfully promised to make them all rich if he might but have the youngest daughter. She said no, and would not hear of it. So the man went out again and settled with the white bear that he should come again next Thursday evening and get her answer, even though she'd already said no. Then the man persuaded her and talked so much to her about the wealth that they would have, and what a good thing it would be for herself, that at last she made up her mind to go, and washed and mended all her rags, made herself as smart as she could, and held herself in readiness to set out. Little enough had she to take away with her. They were that poor. Next Thursday evening the white bear came to fetch her. She seated herself on his back with her bundle, and thus they departed. When they had gone a great part of the way, the white bear said, "Are you afraid?" "No, that I'm not," said she. "Keep tight hold of my fur, and then there is no danger," said he. And thus she rode far, far away until they came to a great mountain. Then the white bear knocked on it, and a door opened. Knocking on a mountain. Interesting. And they went into a castle where there were many brilliantly lighted rooms which shone with gold and silver, likewise a large hall in which there was a well-spread table, and it was so magnificent that it would be hard to make anyone understand how splendid it was. The white bear gave her a silver bell and told her that when she needed anything she had but to ring this bell. Excuse me, I'm burping here. She had but to ring this bell, and what was wanted would appear. So after she had eaten, and night was drawing near, she grew sleepy after her journey, and thought she would like to go to bed. She rang the bell, and scarcely had she touched it before she found herself in a chamber where a bed stood ready made for her, which was as pretty as anyone could ever wish to sleep upon. It had pillows of silk and curtains of silk fringed with gold, and everything that was in the room was of gold or silver, which actually isn't that comfortable. But when she had lain down and put out the light, a man came and lay down beside her, and behold, it was the white bear, who had cast off the form of a beast during the night. She never saw him, however, for he always came after she had put out her light, and went away before daylight appeared. And she never ever once said, "Hello, what are you doing in my bed? I'm not married, you know, and you're not my husband." This is weird. So all went well and happily for a time, but then she began to be very sad and sorrowful, for all day long she had to go about alone, and she did not wish to go home to her father and mother and brothers and she did so wish to go home to her father and mother and brothers and sisters. Then the white bear asked her what it was that she wanted, and she told him that it was so dull there in the mountain, and that she had to go about all alone, and that in her parents' house at home there were all her brothers and sisters, and it was because she could not go to them that she was so sorrowful. That night, "There might be a cure for that," said the white bear, "if you would but promise me never to talk to your mother alone, but only when the others are there too, for she will take hold of your hand," he said, "and will want to lead you into a room to talk with you alone, but that you must by no means do, or you will bring great misery on both of us." So one Sunday, I think I know where this one's going, I've heard it in different forms before. So one Sunday the white bear came and said that they could now set out to see her father and mother, and they journeyed thither, she sitting on his back, and they went a long, long way, and it took a long, long time. But at last they came to a large white farmhouse, and her brothers and her sisters were running around outside playing, and it was so pretty that it was a pleasure to look at it. "Your parents dwell here now," said the white bear, "but do not forget what I said to you, or you will do much harm both to yourself and to me." "No, indeed," said she, "I shall never forget." But of course we know she will. And as soon as she was at home, the white bear turned around and went back again, a long, long way. There was much rejoicings when she went in to her parents. There were such rejoicings when she went in to her parents that it seemed as if they would never come to an end. Everyone thought that he could never be sufficiently grateful to her for all she had done for them all. Now they had everything they wanted, and everything was as good as it could be. They all asked her how she was getting on where she was. All was well with her too, she said, and she had everything that she could want. What other answers she gave I cannot say, but I'm pretty sure that they did not learn much from her. But in the afternoon, after they had dined at midday, all happened just as the white bear had said. Her mother wanted to talk with her alone in her own chamber, but she remembered what the white bear had said and would on no account go. "What we have to say can be said at any time," she answered. But somehow or other her mother at last persuaded her, and she was forced to tell the whole story. So she told how every night a man came and lay down beside her when the lights were all put out, and how she never saw him because he always went away before it grew light in the morning, and how she continually went about in sadness, thinking how happy she would be if she could but see him, and how all day long she had to go about alone, and it was so dull and solitary. "Well, why don't you just spend time with the white bear?" "Sorry." "Oh," cried the mother in horror, "you are very likely sleeping with a troll." "Not if he looks like a man, she isn't." "Oh, but I will teach you a way to see him. You shall have a bit of one of my candles, which you can take away with you, hidden in your breast." That's down in the front of her dress. "Look at him with that when he's asleep, but take care not to let any tallow drop upon him, because that shall wake him up." So she took the candle and hid it in her breast, and when evening drew near, the white bear came to fetch her away. When they had gone some distance on their way, the white bear asked her if everything had not happened just as he had foretold, and she could not but own that it had. "Then if you have done what your mother wished," said he, "you would have brought great misery on both of us." "No," she said, "I have done nothing. I have not done anything at all." So she's lying to him now. So when she had reached home and had gone to bed, it was just the same as it had been before, and a man came and lay down beside her. And late at night, when she could hear that he was sleeping, she got up, kindled a light, lit her light shine on him, and saw him, and he was the handsomest prince ever that eyes had ever beheld, and she loved him so much that it seemed to her that she must die if she did not kiss him that very moment. So she did kiss him, but while she was doing it, she let 3 drops of hot tallow fall upon his shirt, and he awoke. Of course it did wake him up. "What have you done now?" said he. "You have brought misery on both of us. If you had but held out for the space of 1 year, I could have been free. I have a stepmother who has bewitched me so that I am a white bear by day and a man by night. But now all is at an end between you and me, and I must leave you and go to her. She lives in a castle which lies east of the sun and west of the moon, and there too is a princess with a nose which is 3 ells long." It's a measurement, E-L-L, not eels. L's. Long noses. And she now is the one whom I must marry. She wept and lamented, but all in vain, for go he must. Then she asked him if she could not go with him, but no, that could not be. "Can you tell me the way then, and I will seek you, that I may surely be allowed to do?" "That I may surely be allowed to do." "Yes, you may do that," said he, "but there is no way thither. It lies east of the sun and west of the moon, and never would you find your way there." When she awoke in the morning, both the prince and the castle were gone, and she was lying on a small green patch in the midst of a thick, dark wood. Thick wood. By her side lay the self-same bundle of rags which she had brought with her from her own home. So I'm betting that all of the stuff that her folks have got is gone. So when she had rubbed the sleep out of her eyes and wept till she was weary, she set out on her way, and thus she walked for many, many a long day, until at last she came to a great mountain. Again, outside the mountain. Yeah, you don't usually sit inside a mountain. It's such a weird description. You do if you're a dwarf, yes, but this is not a dwarf, it's an old lady.
Oh.
Outside the mountain, an aged woman was sitting, playing with a golden apple. The girl asked her if she knew the way to the prince who lived with his stepmother in the castle which lay east of the sun and west of the moon, and who was to marry a princess with a nose which was 3 ells long. Very specific description. I'm glad she got it right. "How do you happen to know about him?" inquired the old woman. "Maybe you are she who ought to have had him." "Yes, indeed I am," said she. "So it is you then," said the old woman. I know nothing about him but that he dwells in a castle which is east of the sun and west of the moon." All we're getting is repetition of the directions. "You will be a long time in getting to it, if ever you get to it at all, but you shall have the loan of my horse, and then you can ride on it to an old woman who is a neighbour of mine. Perhaps she can tell you about him. When you have got there, you must just strike the horse beneath the left ear and bid it to go home." Oh, thank you so much, CD. I love your commentary observations as you read. Thank you. Yeah, these are definitely not read aloud style readings. These are like Auntie reading you a story at night, and you're just like, what does that mean, Auntie? What? That bit there, go back to that bit, read that again. What does that mean? Sort of thing. Definitely not a what? Ebook. Yes, yeah. Definitely not an ebook. So let's carry on. When you've got there, you must strike the horse beneath the left ear and bid it to go home again, but you may take the golden apple with you. Yes, this is Old English, definitely. So the girl seated herself on the horse and rode for a long, long way, and at last she came. I'm hoping that it's going to be a long time before the prince is forced to marry his stepmother's daughter. Otherwise, by the time she gets there, it's too late. Anyway, let's carry on. So the girl seated herself on the horse and rode for a long, long way, and at last she came to the mountain, another one, this is the third one in the story, where an aged woman was sitting outside with a gold carding comb. Now, a carding comb is a comb that you pull through wool to separate it from being all, not wool that's twisted that you knit with, but wool that's been shorn off a sheep or an alpaca or anything else like that. And it's all just like a big cloud, and a carding comb is what you use to separate it so that the fibres all go in the same direction. That's what she's holding on to or using. An aged woman was sitting outside with a gold carding comb. The girl asked her if she knew the way to the castle, which lay east of the sun and west of the moon, but she said what the first old woman had said, "I know nothing about it, but that it is east of the sun and west of the moon, and that you will be a long time in getting to it, if ever you get there at all. But you shall have the loan of my horse to an old woman who lives the nearest to me," to get there. We didn't hear about her sending the other horse back, by the way. "Perhaps she may know where the castle is, and when you have got to her, you may just strike the horse beneath the left ear and bid it to go home again." They sound like robot horses. They've all got the same button that you push. Then she gave her the gold carding comb, for it might perhaps be of use to her, she said. So the girl seated herself on the horse and rode a wearisome long way onward again, and after a very long time she came to a great mountain, mountain number 4, where an aged woman was sitting, spinning at a golden spinning wheel. Of this woman, too, she inquired if she knew the way to the prince and where to find the castle, which lay east of the sun and west of the moon. But it was only the same thing once again. "Maybe it is you who should have the prince," said the old woman. "Yes, indeed, I should have been the one," said the girl, "but this old crone knew the way no better than the others. It was east of the sun and west of the moon. She knew that, and you will be a long time in getting to it, if ever you get to it at all," she said. "But you may have the loan of my horse, and I think you had better ride to the east wind and ask him. Perhaps he may know where the castle is, and will blow you thither. But when you have got to him, you must just strike the horse." 5 mountains get the 6th one free, yeah. "Strike the horse beneath the left ear, and he will come home again." And then she gave her the gold spinning wheel. I don't know where she's putting all this stuff. The spinning wheel's the only really big thing. Saying, "Perhaps you may find that you have a use for it, although it may be a drop spindle, in which case it's just sort of like in your hand luggage size." The girl had to ride for a great many days and for a long and wearisome time before she got there, but at last she did arrive, and then she asked the east wind if he could tell her the way to the prince who dwelt east of the sun and west of the moon. "Well," said the east wind, "I have heard tell of the prince and of his castle, but I do not know the way to it, for I have never blown so far. But if you like, I will go with you to my brother, the west wind. He may know that, for he is much stronger than I am. You may sit on my back, and then I shall carry you there." So she seated herself on his back. No tapping underneath the left ear to send him home again then? Seated herself on his back, and they did go so swiftly. So it's not a long or tiresome or arduous or anything trip now. When they got there, the east wind went in and said that the girl whom he had brought was the one who ought to have had the prince up at the castle, which lay east of the sun and west of the moon, and that now she was travelling about to find him again, so he had come there with her, and would like to hear if the west wind knew whereabout the castle was. "No," said the west wind. "So far as that, I have never blown. But if you like, I will go with you to the south wind, for he is much stronger than either of us, and he has roamed far and wide." I'm not sure how these captions are coping, because I've got my eyes on the words on the page, sorry. "And he has roamed far and wide, and perhaps he can tell you what you want to know." You may seat yourself on my back, and then I will carry you to him." So she did this, and journeyed to the south wind. Neither was she very long on the way, because winds are faster than horses, apparently. When they'd got there, the west wind asked him if he could tell her the way to the castle that lay east of the sun and west of the moon, for she was the girl who ought to marry the prince who lived there. "Oh, indeed," said the south wind. I'm sorry, I'm running out of voices. "Is that she? Well," said he, "I have wandered about a great deal in my time, and in all kinds of places, but I have never blown so far as that. If you like, however, I will go with you to my brother, the North Wind. He is the oldest and strongest of us all, and if he does not know where it is, then no one in the whole world will be able to tell you. You may sit upon my back, and then I will carry you there." So she seated herself on his back, and off he went from his house in great haste, and they were not long on the way. When they came near the North Wind's dwelling, he was so wild and frantic that they felt cold gusts a long while before they got there. "What do you want?" No, he's not got a nice breezy voice, this one. He roared out from afar, and they froze as they heard. Said the South Wind, "It is I, and this is she who should have had the prince, who lives in the castle which lies east of the sun and west of the moon, and now she wishes to ask you if you have ever been there, and can tell her the way, for she would gladly find him again." "Yes," said the North Wind, "I know where it is. I once blew an aspen leaf there, but I was so tired that for many days afterwards I was not able to blow at all. However, if you're really anxious to go there, and are not afraid to go with me, I will take you on my back and try if I can blow you there." "Get there I must," said she, "and if there is any way of going, I will, and I have no fear, no matter how fast you go." "How do you hold on when you're on the back of the wind, so you don't get knocked off?" "I don't know." "Very well then," said the North Wind, "but you must sleep here tonight. For if we are ever to go there, we must have the day before us," because you can't fly at night, apparently. The North Wind woke her betimes next morning, and puffed himself up, and made himself so big and so strong that it was frightful to see him. And away they went, high up through the air, as if they would not stop until they had reached the very end of the world. Down below there was such a storm. It blew down woods and houses, and when they were above the sea, the ships were wrecked by hundreds, and thus they tore on, and a long time went by, and then yet more. It does sound like a Baron Munchausen story indeed. And thus they tore on, and a long time went by, and then yet more time passed, and still they were above the sea, and the North Wind grew tired and more tired, and at last so utterly weary that he was scarcely able to blow any longer, and he sank and sank, lower and lower, until at last he went so low that the waves dashed against the heels of the poor girl he was carrying. "Art thou afraid?" said the North Wind. "I have no fear," said she. And it was true, but they were not very, very far from the land, and there was just enough strength left in the North Wind to enable him to throw her onto the shore. Yeah, because last time he only carried a leaf, this time he's carrying a whole person. Enable him to throw her on the shore, immediately under the windows of a castle which lay east of the sun and west of the moon. But then he was so weary and worn out that he was forced to rest for several days before he could go to his own home again. Next morning she sat down beneath the walls of the castle to play with the golden apple. Interesting phrase, east of the sun and west of the moon. It is indeed. And I was saying when it seems unattainable, I think that's the whole purpose of the phrase. I have heard of a book that's called that, which may be an elaboration of this story. I don't know. And it might have been written by George MacDonald. I'm not sure. But there's another one that I was going to download today, which is called East of the Sun and West of the Moon, but it's not by George MacDonald. East of the Sun and West of the Moon. Oh, there's a Wikipedia link. That looks interesting. I'll be looking that one up later on. And then we've got this. So I'm thinking it's a story that is very traditional, but it's fallen out of favour because it's not a nicely wrapped up, short, concise story, unlike the Grimm stories. The Grimm stories are really short and punchy and weird. And they've been sanitized greatly so that Disney and all other book versions of them are a lot more tolerable. There's some really weird stuff in the Grimm's ones. This is nowhere near that weird. So here we are. We've got the next morning she sat down beneath the walls of the castle to play with the golden apple, and the first person she saw was the maiden with the long nose who was to have the prince. "How much do you want for that gold apple of yours, girl?" she said, opening the window. "It can't be bought for either gold or money," answered the girl. "If it cannot be bought either for gold or money, what will buy it? You may say what you please," said the princess. "Well, if I may go to the prince who is here and be with him tonight, you shall have it," said the girl who had come with the north wind. "You may do that," said the princess, for she had made up her mind what she would do. So the princess got the golden apple, but when the girl went up to the prince's apartment that night, he was asleep, for the princess had so contrived it. The poor girl called to him and shook him, and between whiles she wept, but she could not wake him. In the morning, as soon as day dawned, in came the princess with the long nose and drove her out again. Yes, East of the Sun seems to suggest the night. That kind of makes sense as being a place. Yes. So out of reach of normal human distance and travel. So the princess with the long nose drove her out again. In the daytime she sat down once more beneath the windows of the castle and began to card with her golden carding comb. Then all happened as it had happened before. The princess asked her what she wanted for it, and she replied that it was not for sale either for gold or money, but that if she could get leave to go to the prince and be with him during the night, she should have it. But when she went up to the prince's room, he was again asleep. He's been drugged or enchanted. So what they need is a way to let him know to not eat or drink anything the next night. He was again asleep, and let her call to him or shake him or weep as she would, he still slept on, and she could not put any life in him. Sorry, itchy eye, properly itchy. And then we'll carry on. There. When daylight came in the morning, the princess with the long nose came to, and once more drove her away. When day had quite come, the girl seated herself under the castle windows to spin with her golden spinning wheel. And the princess with the long nose, she's so bored, this girl, with the long nose wanted to have that also, so she opened the window and asked what she would take for it. The girl said what she had said on each of the former occasions, that it was not for sale either for gold or money, but if she could get leave to go to the prince who lived there and be with him during the night, she should have it. "Yes," said the princess, "I will gladly consent to that." But in that place there were some Christian folk who had been carried off, and they had been sitting in the chamber which was next to that of the prince, and had heard how a woman had been in there, who had wept and called on him 2 nights running, and they told the prince of this. So that evening, when the princess came once more with her sleeping drink, he pretended to drink, but threw it away behind him, for he suspected that it was a sleeping drink. So when the girl went into the prince's room this time, he was awake, and she had to tell him how she had come there. "You have come just in time," said the prince, "for I shall have to be married tomorrow, but I will not have the long-nosed princess, and you alone can save me. I will say that I want to see what my bride can do, and bid her wash the shirt which has the 3 drops of tallow on it. This she will consent to do, for she does not know that it is you who let them fall on it. But no one can wash them out but one born of Christian folk. It cannot be done by one of a pack of trolls." Somebody mentioned trolls before. cannot be done by one of a pack of trolls, and then I will say that no one shall ever be my bride but the woman who can do this, and I know that you can." There was great joy and gladness between them all that night, but the next day when the wedding was to take place, the prince said, "I must see what my bride can do." "That you may do," said the stepmother. "I have a fine shirt that I want to wear as my wedding shirt, but 3 drops of tallow have got upon it, which I have to have washed off, and I have vowed to marry no one but the woman who is able to do it. If she cannot do that, she is not worth having." Well, that was a very small matter, they thought, and agreed to it. The princess with the long nose began to wash as well as she could. I think they really are shaming people with long noses. So let's have a drink from the shame bottle. That's for several mentions of it. The princess with the long nose began to wash as well as she could, but the more she washed and rubbed, the larger the spots grew. "Ha, you can't wash at all," said the old troll hag, who was her mother. "Give it to me." But she, too, had not had the shirt very long in her hands before it looked worse still, and the more she washed it and rubbed it, the larger and blacker grew the spots. "It's going to turn into one big tallow blob." So the other trolls had to come and wash, but the more they did, the blacker and uglier grew the shirt, until at length it was as black as if it had been up the chimney. Tallow is just fat. "Oh," cried the prince, "not one of you is good for anything at all. There is a beggar girl sitting outside the window, and I'll be bound that she can wash better than any of you. Come in, you girl there," he cried. So she came in. "Can you wash this shirt clean?" he cried. "Oh, I don't know," she said, "but I'll try." And no sooner had she taken the shirt and dipped it in the water than it was white as driven snow. And even whiter than that. That's what it says. "I will marry you," said the prince, "because you can be my washmaid." "You can be the laundry maid." Then the old troll hag flew into such a rage that she burst. And the princess with the long nose and all the little trolls must have burst too, for they have never been heard of since. The prince and his bride set free all the Christian folk who were imprisoned there, and took away with them all the gold and silver that they could carry, and moved far away from the castle, which lay east of the sun and west of the moon. And this one is from Asbjornsen and Moe, M-O-E. I would guess that story phrase, east of the sun and west of the moon, has been around for a long while. I'm not sure. I'm going to have a look at that, because we've only got 8 minutes until the end of stream. And I don't really want to start a new story, because the next story is 49 pages long, and that's bloomin' long. It's called The Yellow Dwarf, by the way. East of the sun and west of the moon. In the Arne Thompson categorising of fairy tales, it is an ATU 425A. The animal, in brackets, monster, as bridegroom is the central theme. And it's from Norway, yes, with what was his name again? Asbjornsen, not Arne. Asbjornsen is one of the names. Oh, those look like illustrations from one of the Pre-Raphaelites. They could well be. I'm going to have to find illustrations from this story that we can put in the Discord server, or I can at least show you, because I'm sure I've seen ones of it before. So the original story, East of the Sun and West of the Moon, in Norwegian is called Ostenfor Sol og Vestenfor Mann. There you go. And it's probably nothing like how it's pronounced. Norwegian fairy tale included by Andrew Lang in the Blue Fairy book. Yes, which is where we've just read it from. And I think the Blue Fairy book and the others in the series are a resource. A lot of more modern tellings of fairy tales have come from there. Yes, Grimm's fairy tales, but they feel like a lot of the tales that we know that have come from the Grimm brothers, feel like they've been elaborated on more before being written as a more modern story, modern language story. They might be set way back in the medieval period or something like that, but the actual way the stories are told has a more modern feel to them. There are variants amongst the Finnish and the Swedish people and from Russia to the story. There are retellings and translations into English. There are film adaptations, as well as these illustrations, which are probably, no, they're not all from there. Finnish folklorist Oscar Hackman summarised a Finnish-Swedish tale from Vora, and it's about a large-nosed woman who wants to marry a handsome man. Blah, blah, blah. There's a tale from Russia, from Novgorod Oblast, which is a region, Novgorod region, with the title, and I'm not going to try and read it because it's written in Cyrillic, but it means bear husband, which makes sense. Retellings. There's a heap of retellings listed. My goodness. And some of them, so many different retellings of it. I'm not even going to read them out to you. You don't need all that information. You can look for it yourself. Those are gorgeous illustrations, but those are not the ones I was thinking of, the ones by Kay Nielsen. I would have to look up to see if Kay Nielsen is... it has a lot about it because it actually is a story that has been translated so many times. And the phrase is so distinct, so unique, east of the sun and west of the moon. It's not a common usage phrase. I'm going to see if I can find some public domain images, because the ones that are in the black and whites down the page feel more familiar to me. Than the ones lower down on the page, which were the 1914 ones, which are, I think, probably a lot more recent and therefore not public domain, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I really don't know, but I will find out a bit more about it. Anyway, so there you go. We have had an interesting introduction to the Blue Fairy book. I doubt that I'm going to read all of this book because it's a very long one. I think it's going to be one where I will pick it up, read a story or two from it between other books and put it down. We will leave it for a bit, and then when we need another day reading or another couple of days reading, I'll do the same again, and we'll work our way gradually through it, because with the page size I have in my the thing I'm reading from, it's 908 pages long, and most of the stories we read are about 300 pages long. So that's blimmin' long. That would take me through to Christmas. Well, no, it wouldn't, but still, that's a long one. So no, we will not be reading all of it, but yes, probably next time we are going to read the next story, which will probably take most of my next stream time, I would guess. My plan currently is that, hang on, let's find the right place. No, I'm looking at the wrong thing. No, not that. That. Open link in other window. That's the one. My plan currently, I'm just trying to look at, I shouldn't have even been looking at that. Okay. My plan currently is that, I got that far, I need to say a little bit more now. Scheduling. We have all of this week, and then we have 2 full reading weeks until Halloween. So this week is 13th, 15th and 17th for me, New Zealand time. So it's the 13th today, it's Monday the 13th of October. So this week I'm going to do this, and then next week and the week after I am going to do spooky season games. Now, for everybody who knows me well, you know that means they're not going to be scary games. They're not going to be full of jump scares or gore or intense violence or anything like that, because that's not my style, because I don't game well with that sort of thing. I don't enjoy it. I may occasionally get a fright from something, but it's not like what you get in a proper horror game, because those are not my thing. They will be cute and spooky, or cute and Halloween themed, or even cute and autumnal, as in autumn colours, maybe even pumpkins, that sort of stuff. So I'm going to have two weeks of streaming Halloween and other associated related games. DDV Halloween. Yes, we may even do that if I run out of other games to do, or if I want a bit of a break and want to play something that's familiar to me, then we will do some Disney Dreamlight Valley with the current batch of Halloween things that are available in the game and are coming in the game. I have not completed the Star Path. We've got 2 months to do it, and I think, but the rewards are Halloween themed. And they're quite cute, some of them. We've already got some of the things available. And I have actually redeemed some moonstones in the game, in the premium store, for something that was Halloween themed. It may have been an outfit, because it was several pieces instead of just one item that you put on with everything. But generally speaking, I'm not buying lots of stuff in the premium store because it costs so much. I want to always have a buffer that I have available for when we have another Star Path or something. So all of this week I'm going to be reading. Next week and the week after I'll be doing Halloween themed games and things along those lines. So I've got a few games where they have a Halloween skin for the season. I don't know when they start actually putting those on, because I haven't opened those games up for a while. Some of them are very old and abandoned. And I'm going to wind up Goriki by playing one of those, probably just because he grumbles about the fact that why are you playing games that are so old and nobody wants to play them anymore, sort of thing. But that's me. I mean, I'm old. Yeah, whatever. But I have some other ones where I want to have the whole game. I haven't got it yet. I will be playing the demo of them, because why not? Because it's actually a witch themed or spooky or Halloween or whatever, all of that sort of stuff, and we're just going to have fun with it and explore it. And I'm going to try and get it so my stuff is set up so that was excellent timing. My stuff is set up so we do have some noises and lightning and creaks and ooh and all sorts of jump scares and things. So get ready to do some clipping, because you know that I'm hilarious when I get a fright. 8 Ball, was that necessary? 8 Ball says, yes, this is the way. And then we have the flame, which popped up on screen, which was lovely. So, yeah, that's what we're going to be doing for the next little while. That's my plan. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you for the follow, CD. Great to have you here, by the way, and for you interacting. Well done on the interaction. It's one of the things that we really like to see, even if people are going to lurk, if they do actually say hi and then reference stuff that is happening in the stream, because what happens is when you do that, we see that you're a real person, and we don't put a tag against your name on the mod panel to say, keep an eye on this one, they're a bit sus, they may be a bot or a scammer or a spammer. Be ready with a ban hammer. And if we know that you have actually engaged and it's been relevant engagement, then we don't need to put that sort of tag against your name. So there you go. That's how it runs. And thank you for saying hi, by the way. It's lovely to have you here. I hope you've been having a lovely day, and everybody else too. Look after yourselves, okay? And thank you, Neff, for being here and also redeeming about that donkey fact. I don't know if you realised that was what it was going to give you. For a next time, or for another time, those of you who haven't been here very many times before, or it's been a while, we do have a bingo card, and every square on it is valid. There are no free spaces, and it's quite a list of things that can turn up on the bingo card, and they will get shuffled for every time someone wants one. So next time you come in, get your bingo cards ready and see who gets a bingo first, because if you get a bingo, which is a full line either vertically or horizontally, then you get a free choice of a free opportunity to make me wear a headband or a set of ears or something weird like that. So there you go. There's the link for it in chat. You can't click on this one, but you can in the one that's in your chat. There's all sorts of other things that we can do. And I will get the Halloween redeems working again too when we get that far. But thank you for being here. Look after yourselves. Be kind to yourself. You need that. We all need that. But you need especially to be kind to yourself. And happy